listening to Speaking with One Voice with Rodney Payne. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, topics you'd like discussed on the show, or if you'd like to be a guest on the show, please email us at rpayne@onevoiceinc.org. That's rpayne@onevoiceinc.org. You can also search for us on Acast, Google Play, SoundCloud, and iTunes. Just look for Speaking with One Voice. Now, here's your host, Rodney Payne.
Hello and welcome to Speaking with One Voice. I am your host, the coach, Rodney Payne. So excited to be back with you again this week on Speaking with One Voice, your leadership podcast devoted to developing you and your leadership team as we add value to you each and every week right here. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you for continuing to like and subscribe to our podcast and rate our podcast on whatever platform you're listening and consuming this content. We say thank you. We want to make sure that you're following us on all of our social media platforms at Rodney R. Payne, and make sure you go and subscribe to our YouTube channel at Rodney R. Payne as well. And as always, I want to stay connected with you. And listen, I've got a big announcement coming up really, really soon. And so I want you to stay tuned and be ready for that. And while you're browsing our material, make sure you stop by our website, rodneyrpayne.com. There you can find out how to connect with us, how we can add value to you, how you can be a part of our coaching team and do what we want to do here, as well as find resources and a free gift that are going to add value to you. I know I've given you a lot there. All I'm simply saying is we want you connected, and we are grateful you are a part of the One Voice Leadership family, and you are a faithful listener to Speaking with One Voice, the podcast. Today, I want to talk to you about transforming perspective into process. Transforming perspective into process. As I was meeting with a mentee not long ago, we were talking about certain things, and we have so many perspectives that we look to, that we don't necessarily complete the perspective, but we can see things a certain way, but we're not able to transform that or transition that into an actual process. So I've got about 5 things I'm going to share with you today when we talk about moving our perspective, because our perspective is going to be how we see things, how we view things, our attitude concerning certain things. And many times we have perspective, but we don't have process. So I really want to talk about this and really dig into this, because there are a few things that you're going to have to do to transform your perspective in the process. The first thing is, I want you to understand that without identifying your core values, there will be no transforming perspective in the process. You have to identify your core values. We also call them your guiding principles here at One Voice Leadership. We want to make sure that you understand that there are 2 components here, and they must be in agreement in order for this to be effective in your leadership. First of all, leaders have to pinpoint, I mean, zero in, reduce down to the lowest common denominator. What are your personal values? What will you live by? What is your true north? What dictates how you want to run your brand, what you want to be known for, not just as an identity, but as a reality. Not what you'd like for people to say about you, but they say exactly what they see, and exactly what they see would be your personal values being presented and lived out in your business, in your brand, in your personal life. So you have to pinpoint personal values, but you also have to pinpoint organizational values. See, what happens is they both serve in the same foundational area of impactful leadership. If I don't have personal values and organizational values that are in agreement, then I can never really move forward. Many times we want our brand to appear better than us, or we want to appear better than our brand, when really, as a leader, I have to work with an organization that shares my personal values. As an organization, I need a leader who shares the organizational values so that we can have impactful leadership and meet our desired outcomes. That's what we have to do. Now, if I could help you, really, I've got about 5 of these I want to get to, but really on this core values piece, it's so important, because core values can enhance your team alignment. Think about this. Statistics say that 86% of employees cite a lack of clarity around goals as the primary reason for workplace failure. They don't know what you stand for. And so the reason 86% of employees say the reason we fail is because we don't know. We really don't have clarity around what we're trying to do. So we don't have alignment in our team. When you have clear personal and organizational values, when you identify those, you're going to get some harmony on your team as well as some productivity. So I just want to make sure that you fully understand that step one is to identify your core values. Secondly, we have to now move on to vision alignment. Vision alignment. I do a workshop called it deals with the details of vision alignment, where we talk about how does a team get in alignment with the vision. I teach you several things. Number one is that the vision has to be clear, it has to be believable, it has to be credible. There's a lot of things that have to happen, but in order to get an alignment, what happens is you got to understand that when you're aligning team goals with a leader's vision, now you can make sure that we're working for a shared purpose. We have to understand a shared purpose is critical for our success. So if the leader has a goal and the leader has a vision, but the team's goals are not consistent with the vision or not clearly communicated, the team can't buy in. It's almost like we're asking the team to take us to a place, but we're not telling them where we want to go, how we want to get there, and how significant of a role they play on the journey. That's what has to happen. We have to understand team and leader must have goals and vision that match. And that's only going to happen when you have a credible leader with a credible vision who communicates clearly and includes the team. That is so good, my friends. You want to be a credible leader. Just think about this. Have you ever been a part of a team where the leader changes the what they say in I'm a sports person. So what we say in sports analogies is that they move the goalpost all the time. So one day we're shooting for this. We didn't get that, so now we're shooting for this. We didn't get that, so now we're shooting for this. What happens is when you lose, when you never achieve your vision or your goals, what you lose is credibility. And the team no longer buys into the leader. And that's why the leader vision is so important. And it must be communicated by a credible leader in a credible manner so that you can get to your desired outcome. This is so significant, my friends, because studies show that when teams know their organization's vision, productivity increases by 20%. Just by knowing where we're going gets a plus 20 on productivity. Can you imagine how would a plus 20% in productivity change your business today? Think about that. If you're currently achieving at 90% of your potential or of your goal, if you were to increase that by 20%, you would go from 90% to 110%. And I'm telling you, that is from good to great, my friends. That's why we have to make sure that we are meticulous when aligning the vision. Now, here's the thing. As a leader, you have to be clear. You don't come up with a vision on a fly. You come up with a vision on the fly. You plan, you think, you do strategic things. And that's, as an aside, really quickly, the reason I want leaders to promote themselves to strategic leadership as opposed to personal active completion, being a team member. We need team members. Leaders need to be strategic. And if you're doing all the work because you haven't empowered someone else to do it, you can never work on strategy. Strategy takes time. Uh, we're going to have a great announcement coming up, and it's not going to happen until much later in the year. But we are in the strategic phase of this, rolling out things internally before you ever get them externally, so that we can get to our desired goal. And so the team has a shared purpose because the goals are aligning with the vision. But as the leader, I have to know where we are going. So I want you to increase that productivity by about 20% on your team just by letting them know specifically, clearly, and credibly where we're going and how we plan to get there. Listen, you are listening to Speaking with One Voice with your host, the coach, Rodney Payne. We are here each week to add value to you and or your leadership team. Stay connected with us on social media at Rodney R. Payne, and make sure you visit our website, rodneyrpayne.com, and pick up your free gift today so that you can move the needle in your organization. Now, back to transforming perspective into process. The third thing I want to share with you today is you've got to create an actionable roadmap. Strategy is fine. It's great to have an end state goal and a desired outcome. But without the how, your process will never show up. It will only be perspective. It will only be what you see. If you really want to get from where you are to where you want to be, you've got to create an actionable roadmap. And so when I think about that, I think about the acronym CAR, right? Creating actionable roadmaps. It means that I have to have I'm old enough that we didn't always speak to our devices and tell them where we were going, and they would pull up a map and tell us the traffic. We used to have to pull out a piece of paper, which then became a book, and we had to look at a map. And we had to map out our time and how many miles were we going and what was our average rate of speed going to be and where would we stop and how long would it take to get there. Believe it or not, this was all a manual process. It's kind of like that in our business as leaders. So transforming visionary ideas into actionable steps helps to clarify expectations, and it fosters commitment. When I have these visionary ideas, but I break them down into an actionable roadmap, what happens is now we get very clear on what we expect. And when we have expectations that we're aiming toward, now we have a reason to commit to this process. And we know we've got deadlines and we know where we're going. When you think about this, when you know exactly where you're going, man, it makes a difference. Now, personally, I am not an over planner on vacation. I'm probably an under planner. Like I can tell you when we're leaving, where we're going, where we're staying, and when we're coming home. And that's about it. That may be for a 7-day vacation because I'm going to vacate. But there are some people that itinerary their whole life. They put this itinerarization together. And I mean, I'm talking about it's like at 9:10 a.m. we'll be here, at 12:25 p.m. we'll be here. That's not good for me for vacation. But when it comes to transforming a visionary idea, we need actionable steps that we can measure along the way. Did you realize that actionable roadmaps can lead to 50% shorter project timelines when effectively implemented? When you take the time to build the roadmap and you get it clear, you can shorten your time by 50%. How many times have you been involved in an organizational plan and you were working towards a certain end, and as you were going, you thought of better ways to do it or different ways to do it, or things came to light that you hadn't thought about yet? That, my friends, that becomes a process that actionable steps on this roadmap that it actually changes, because now we know exactly where we're going. We've got commitments, we've got timelines. And so we get in our car. What is our car? Creating actionable roadmaps. That's what we're doing, because our goal today is to transform perspective, how we see it, how we view it, our attitude concerning it, into process, how we actually make it happen. Oh, my friends, I hope you are enjoying this as much as I am. I want to move on to number 4. Now, number 4 is we're going to now move into overcoming resistance to change. Now, what I know is that change is always a challenge within an organization, particularly when you're trying to change to grow and you've developed some bad habits along the way. It's difficult to change the way we've always done something. And then, especially when it's less than effective, because now we have to make a change, which means we have to highlight, or not intentionally, but as a result of the change, it highlights someone else's inefficiency. So we have to be very, very careful to when we're addressing apprehensions as it relates to our team members. See, if we're going to do this, it's critical for us to have successful transformation. but we have to be careful. And what I mean is full of care when I say careful about the team's apprehension. Some will be because of underperformance. Some will be because of comfortability. Some will be because of personality type. But what I've learned is that just because we make a change now, because there's a better alternative today, that doesn't mean that what we were doing was bad. It means that perhaps the time for that solution has passed. Technology has given us better options. So when we made the decision to do it the way we were doing it, it was enough for the time. It was enough for our client base. It was enough for the level of leadership that we had in our team. But now we're growing. So we want to be very, very careful when addressing apprehensions and make sure that apprehensions are not viewed as accusations or not communicated as accusations. Apprehensions could be, I've got some very good reasons that I'm concerned about this, because you'll have an employee or a team leader who knows that this change is going to negatively affect 3 or 4 specific clients. Well, if we've got thousands of clients, we care about all of them. So we have to be tender in how we communicate with them, but we can't allow those 3 or 4 clients to stop the progress that's going to benefit the 99% of our clientele. So you got to be really careful. And you know that just by nature, we don't like change. By nature, change is challenging for us. So I want us to be, again, don't be accusatory when addressing apprehension, but rather be understanding. Be clear, and as we progress and grow, let's celebrate. And one other thing I throw in here is that you can actually include your team in the change before you make the change to make the change the most effective. So, for instance, we can say we have got to deal with our fulfillment. Our fulfillment is backing up. Our warehouse is having a tough time. We have several challenges in getting our goods to the end user. How do we do this? Well, when you ask that question, the people who do it every day are going to help you with offering a better solution. So now they are a part of the change, so they're less likely to be resistant to change. Think about this. Nearly 70% of change initiatives, they fail. Why do they fail? They fail because of resistance. How many times you try to change something and you're getting someone trying to get someone to adopt it and make it a way of life and they won't do it? Well, if we're going to have these types of changes and we're going to overcome resistance, we have to be effective communicators in order to have our support. You're not going to get the support you need and you desire unless you are willing to effectively communicate, which is the example I gave you earlier. So we got to remember this. If we're going to transform perspective into process, we have got to deal with overcoming the resistance to change. And I've got one more for your consideration. And so listen, refresh your perspectives regularly. Don't get stuck in last year's perspective. Our world is evolving at a rapid rate with technology, with AI, with technology and communications and creativity. The processes of maturation in business are changing. But one thing hasn't changed, and that's people. So we've got to make sure that our perspectives are inclusive of not only our technological components, but our most important capital would be our people capital, our team. So we've got to make sure that we are always carrying and delivering a fresh perspective on what we're doing and making sure that we are always relevant in our business. So, as leaders, it's up to us to routinely reassess and adapt our perspectives as the market evolves. We don't want to be refreshing just to hit refresh or doing new just to do new. But as our marketplace evolves, as our industry evolves, we've got to be on top of things as leaders and be willing to refresh our perspectives regularly. See, when we think about this, organizations that critically reflect on their vision every year, annually, they are 30% more agile and better equipped to make a pivot or a change. So what happens is you have to be willing to look at it at least on an annual basis. That means assessment and a willingness to modify or to solidify or stabilize a process. So I want you to always be considering your perspective. I cannot believe it. We are nearly out of time. Let me take just a moment and go back and give you a recap over the process to transform perspective into process. Remember, there are 5 things that we want to do here. Number 1 is we want to identify core values. What do we stand for individually and organizationally? Make sure that we understand that if we don't set the values, we have nothing consistent to move forward on. So our perspectives will never become process. We talked about the importance of vision alignment. We have to understand that vision, it must align in the organization, within the leadership, as well as the team, which requires a credible leader to communicate a credible vision. And that's how we're going to get this vision alignment out there. We can't keep changing just because we didn't hit our targets, right? And then we want to make sure, remember the CAR acronym, creating actionable roadmaps. We have to know how we plan to get from where we are to where we want to be. That is so significant in our process and on our journey. And as we do this, we do understand there will be some resistance to change along the way. So we must prepare ourselves proactively to overcome resistance to change. And then finally, we need to refresh our perspectives regularly, my friends. That's how you transform perspective into process. Well, listen, I'm out of time, and it's been great to be with you this week on Speaking with One Voice. I want to thank you again for the support you've given to this opportunity to grow as a leader. Thank you for catching us on all of our social media platforms or wherever you consume this content. We are at Rodney R. Payne, and what I want you to do is go and like all of our social media pages, turn on your notifications, and specifically, I want you to go to our YouTube channel, subscribe, and like. And if you've got a message you'd like to get to us, feel free to DM us on any of our social media platforms. You can also connect with us on our webpage, rodneyrpayne.com, where you can pick up your free gift to help to move the needle in your organization. And just know that we are always excited to be with you, and thank you for taking time. Listen, I am your host, the coach, Rodney Payne. As always, it's my pleasure to join you each and every week and add value to you and your leadership team. And I take that very, very seriously. So it's a great big thank you on this week's episode. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for all you do. And thank you for being a great leader. I believe in you. We believe in you. You've got this. You're on your way to being a great leader. Listen, I am your host, the coach, Rodney Payne. Until next time, do me a favor. Let's keep growing together.
You've been listening to Speaking with One Voice. Please remember to follow Rodney Payne on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Rodney R. Payne. We'd love to hear from you and get your feedback, so please feel free to leave us comments. And if you would, rate and subscribe to the podcast, we'd appreciate that as well. Don't forget to set up for notifications so you can get the latest updates and social media posts and get new podcasts when they're released. As always, use the hashtag Speaking with One Voice or simply SWOV on any of your social media posts. On behalf of Rodney Payne, thanks again for listening to Speaking with One Voice.